everyone. Thank you so much for having me here today, the Girl Geek X team. As Angie said, I am a senior engineer at Workday. I am very excited to be here and share some tips and lessons from my own journey to succeeding in this role. Let me quickly share my screen because I have a few slides to share with you. I hope I don't I do justice to them. So let me go ahead. So do you see my screen?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, so let's begin, right? So what is so how many of you here are staff engineers already or looking to be staff engineers?
Is there a way to make your screen a little smaller? I think the S is cut off in your name. I'm wondering if that's something. Okay, there you go. Perfect.
Okay, hold on, sorry. Yeah. So how many of you are staff engineers or aspiring staff engineers here? Okay, I don't think I can see your. Okay, there are quite a few of you, I guess. Awesome. That's really nice. So I'm hoping this talk is useful and I can show you what it takes to lead. Okay, so let's move on. So being a staff engineer is like being the captain of a spaceship. You are not just charting a course, but you are dodging asteroids, which could be production bugs, navigating uncharted territories, and making sure your team doesn't float off into the chaos. It's not about writing how many lines of code you can write, but it's how many minds you inspire, the systems you elevate, and the problems you try to solve before they even arise. So let's uncover what it takes to lead and inspire in this role. Okay, so before we dive in, I would like to share with you what we will be covering. So it's about, hold on, what a staff engineer role entails, the key competencies for success, the challenges and the strategies to overcome them, as well as how you can continue to grow and sustain impact. So it is beyond the code. So what does this mean? When you say something is beyond one, my manager once told me that in order to be a staff engineer or in order to grow in your career, you have to stop jumping into writing code right away. But what you need to focus on is understanding the problem deeply. That thought really stuck with me, and throughout my career as a staff engineer, that's what I have been uh, to following and trying to implement in my day to day. So you are a visionary, a strategist, and a mentor. Okay, big buzzwords, but what does all this mean? When you are a visionary, what you are trying to do is you're like an architect of a city. You are trying to see beyond the skyline and look for how you can scale and how can you maintain the systems you build. You are a strategist. So what does that mean? A strategist is a person I would define as like, you are trying to balance technical innovation with the needs of the business. So that means that you might decide that you don't want to use some specific technology because the need of the hour for you or the company or the project is like, looking at how you can scale the system and how you can make the code more reusable and robust going forward. You are also a mentor. So when you talk about mentorship, it's like besides being hands on, you are expected, or as part of your role you are mentoring or guiding junior engineers into completing whatever task at hand. So you are that you are like a compass, you're showing them the direction but without actually dictating what they need to do. So one way of doing this is like having brainstorming sessions with engineers on the team, get their input, see what they think, see their thought process, and if you think they are going a little astray, guide them in the right direction. You are also responsible, or as a staff engineer, you're driving cross team initiatives. That is, you're collaborating with product, you're collaborating with the stakeholders, you're collaborating with uh, other teams to deliver results. I'm sure all of us, whenever we have first encountered a requirement, it has always been ambiguous, right? It's never been clear or set in stone. So navigating around this ambiguity is where your true potential, or a sense of being a staff engineer, comes in. You have to break down a problem into smaller chunks and define each chunk as you go. So that is part of our job, and that is what we need to do to succeed. And you have to influence technical direction. So whatever technical direction or whatever technical guidance you provide, it has to be backed up by some MVP or some data to say that, okay, if we do this, these are the results we'll achieve, and so on. So that is very, very important. So what are the key responsibilities of a staff engineer and above? Okay, you're responsible for designing scalable systems. So what does this actually mean? This means that, okay, if you're given a product requirement that I have to build X, Y, and Z, besides just jumping into building it out, you have to think about, how will this be relevant 5 years from now? Will this scale if the company grows from 1x to 10x, 10 times the number of users that you have? Will this sustain the load? So that is what you have to think about. You have to think about scale. And we all of most of us have heard the previous talk about system design. So this is where that key aspect comes in, where you have to think of scale, in knowing that today I have, say, 100 users. Tomorrow, if I have 10,000, if I have 1 million users in the future, will this scale? And how can I build a system so that it's easy to scale? Enabling team success without micromanaging. So this is very, very important, because you are not a direct manager. You are influencing without authority. You are driving technical decision making, but you are not an authoritative figure, in the sense that people don't report to you. You are still an individual contributor. So it is very important that you understand this and guide the team in the right direction without actually dictating what needs to be done. And building technical roadmaps. So this is like going on a road trip. I would say I would associate it with that. Like where you have to get to, and you have the key stops along the way. So building technical roadmaps is something that is very important as part of the journey. So now, what are the core competencies of a staff engineer? Okay, what are the core competencies? You you have to be very strategic in your thinking. That means, as I mentioned before, you have to see the needs of the business, or whatever you're building has to come first. You have to strategize about what will you be able to do to achieve X, Y, and Z. So that is very crucial in this role. Like you strategize whatever you are building, such that it has a long term impact. Then you are technical, you're supposed to be the technical go-to person. Obviously you have architects, you'll have senior managers, but then there are things that you might have to handle on your own. You can obviously reach out to them for guidance, but being the technical, like if you are given a project and you are supposed to drive it, you are supposed to understand all before or while developing or working on it, you're supposed to understand the technical aspects of all of it. Communication, yeah. So communication is a two-way street, as we have heard this phrase all along. So when you say communication, it's like, besides being telling people what to do, you have to be a very good listener yourself. You have to understand different perspectives before making a decision, like pros and cons, and be a good communicator across teams, with product, with the stakeholders. and so on. Because there might be cases where you might miss something if you are not thorough in your research and communicating with the right people. And collaboration and mentorship, this is very, very important. So collaboration is a part of what you do. Besides being technical, you are supposed to be managing projects by talking to the right people, the stakeholders, mentoring junior engineers, without actually being too authoritative. You drive direction, you are like a compass, I would say. You show the direction to the to people in your team, and without actually telling them this is how I want this done or something, or without being a dictator, I would say. So the other part of this journey is navigating challenges. And again, as I mentioned, ambiguity is part of what we do, and navigating through this ambiguity is what defines us, or our role in as a staff engineer. So here, when you say about managing ambiguity, you will think like, ask the questions again and again. What are we trying to achieve? Who are the users of the system? How many users do we expect? How do we want this to scale? What are the requirements? What features do we need to deliver first? Ask all the right questions. Again, this is just like a system design where you are trying to design a system before you start building it and before you start coding. So this is managing ambiguity. Ask the right questions to the right people. Make sure you have all the information at hand. And balancing priorities, this is also very, very crucial, because sometimes when you are building something out, you have to worry about, if we build this out, is there any tech debt? Like, you might have tech debt, and we have that all the time when we build systems or in software. Like, do we need to resolve that tech debt first before we go ahead and build this out? And in one of the projects that I worked in, I actually had to pause some piece of development, because what the company or the team needed at that point was alerting and monitoring in the system rather than a new feature. So balancing priorities is something we have to juggle with as well. And staying relevant technically, cannot emphasize this enough. Yes, as we all know, the tech landscape is changing so drastically. There is new technology out there, there is AI, and there are so many products being built. So you have to be on top of all of this. Set aside some hours to research, to learn and grow, take up certifications, take up courses that you might interest you, and make sure you are up to date with what is happening. There are a lot of newsletters that come out and a lot of blog posts that people publish. So just make sure you are aware of what is happening in the industry. Okay, so now moving on to best practices, right? So okay, so you advocate, so the do's, okay, like advocate for sustainable best practices. That is, clean code automated testing is one of them. Make sure you have two to three people reviewing a piece of code. There are unit tests in that code, 80% to 90% code coverage, and you have QA that is creating automated tests every now and then to make sure as the system scales, you are taking care of things that nothing taking care that nothing in the system breaks. You build strong relationships across engineering and leadership teams. So that means you, as you know, that you are in a position where you are not a manager or a senior manager, but you, all your decisions, all your the relationships that you build are based on your expertise, and you have to back up all that you do with data or metrics, saying that if we do it this way, if we scale it, if we use this tech stack, it'll scale well, and so on. Everything has to be backed by data and metrics. And take ownership of failures. It's very important. If you've not, there's something that has not missed a deadline, like one of the projects where we missed a deadline. This was during COVID times. We were working with teams across the globe. We missed deadlines. Take ownership. Yes, it happened because of these reasons. And, just stand up. That builds trust. Your team will rely on you and they'll know that they have somebody to back them up in case something goes wrong. That's very, very important. And the don'ts are, do not micromanage. You are there to help the team, you are there to empower them. And you are not supposed to be telling them what to do. You're supposed to guide them into doing the right thing. And avoid tough conversations. So, like, avoid tough conversations is like there can be conflicts and that arises all the time. So you have to be smart enough and very empathetic, listen and try to resolve conflicts in a very calm manner, because at the end of the day it's nothing personal. It is something that came up as a result of whatever work was being done. So be very empathetic and try to resolve it very amicably. So, just sharing some resources for success, some books that I recommend, and I have read the second one, but not the first one. So the Staff Engineer's Path by Tanya Riley, the Staff Engineer Leadership Beyond the Management Track, and some websites where you have actual interviews and tips from staff engineers are staffeng.com, and Byte is very good for system design. And communities besides the Girl Geek X is also anitaborg.org and Women Who Code. And so the key takeaways, okay, from this are: master leadership, be a great communicator and develop strategic thinking, drive alignment and build bridges across teams, and focus on long-term impact while staying technically sharp. So, one thing that I would like to one thought I would like to leave you with, that staff engineers do not just build systems, they build teams and empower people to build those systems. So, elevate, innovate, empower, and inspire. So, that is what I have for you today, and I'm free to take any questions you might have. Okay, I see one, which is like, how does a staff engineer work with an engineering manager? So yeah, the staff engineer closely works with an engineering manager whenever there are new projects that are coming in. You have meetings with the stakeholders, you have meetings with product, and the engineering manager generally oversees the deadlines are being met, and they are responsible for career growth of the people under them. They also give their inputs on certain things when like when you're driving technical direction. If the manager may or may not be technically involved, but if they are, they definitely give their inputs in the roadmaps and the design of the system, etc. So there's another question which says, as a junior engineer, how can I build strong relationships and learn from my staff engineer? So I think to answer that question, as a junior engineer, what you need to do is, reach out, reach out for any questions that you have. Get if you don't if there is something that you're working on, you want to get more in-depth knowledge. Set up one-on-one meetings with the staff engineer and ask for his guidance and so on how you approach the problem. If you don't understand something, reach out to him directly, as well as have that rapport. Like, if you need in-depth information or about the system, you can definitely set this up, one on, like, you can have him as your mentor, I would say. And one important thing that I also wanted to mention, that we as staff engineers need mentors too. So definitely don't feel afraid to reach out to the senior people in the team to get more guidance, etc., because there are multiple paths that we navigate as staff engineers. What advice would you want? What advice do you give women to gain confidence? I mean, to gain confidence, I would say you just put yourself out there, meet with other women, learn from their inspiring stories, attend talks like these, and just try to do something, like start small, maybe start with uh, a social service activity or something like that, and see what you can achieve. Or if you're talking in terms of building your career, I would say start on a small project, and share it with a few friends that this is what I'm working on, and gain their inputs, etc., and that will help you build confidence as you go. How do you force Okay. How do you foster cross departmental conversations with the business to build confidence that you are building the right thing? Okay, so I think whenever you are on it, undertaking a new project, or you are working on something brand new, you should be setting up syncs with across the team on a weekly or a bi-weekly basis. That is number one. Secondly, when you if you're building an MVP, say that MVP will take about a month or two sprints to build, just have demos with the team to show them this is what I have so far, and this is my plan. So have your plan for have propose a plan forward, show them how this will be, how this will play out in the long run, so that that before you build out the whole thing, you are actually on the right track, or make changes as you go. So this is very important, that you have get all the right people on into the meeting, show them what you have, and go from there.